Hello and welcome to the August edition of Our Faith, Our Diocese. I'm Dan Gallagher. On July 10th, over 150 golfers from around the diocese gathered at the Blue Ridge Trail Golf Club in Mountaintop to take part in the 8th annual Vocations Golf Classic. As we're about to see, this year's tournament raised a record amount of money for those men in our diocese who are answering God's call to the priesthood. Joining me now to look back on this year's tournament, it's a pleasure to welcome Father Don Williams, who serves us as Diocesan Director of Vocations and Seminarians. Next, I'd like to welcome Mary Louise Ruan, who serves us as Director of Stewardship and Donor Relations. Mary Louise, Father, thank you for being here today. Father, looking back on this year's Golf Classic, how successful was it?
Oh, it was a tremendous success. Certainly God blessed us in a wonderful way. We had perfect weather. Our bishop, priest, many men and women, and some young people joined us for really a wonderful day. The golf course certainly was in excellent condition, delicious food, great companionship, and a lot of money raised for our vocation efforts.
Speaking of that, Mary Louise, how much money did we actually raise this year?
Dan, this was a record year. We grossed $110,000 for our St. John Vianney Endowment, which is restricted to aid seminarian education, and seminarian direct assistance, and also for vocations programs, to foster vocations.
This is amazing. I mean, we've done well every year, but obviously this year is the best year yet. What do you think that says about the support that you do receive, not only from the golfers who show up that day, but also the people and the businesses that sponsor this Golf Classic?
Dan, this was a record year for us. We raised $110,000, we grossed, for our seminarians, for all the programs that foster vocations, for their education, and also for direct assistance for seminarians who may have debt before they enter the priesthood.
Father, when you look at that particular day, obviously they're going down for the camaraderie to have a nice day of golf, but why is it so important from the perspective of the people that are golfing also interacting with the seminarians?
Well, that's a really important part of the golf tournament, I believe, that many of our seminarians are able to be there to help with registration, to help on the course, but also just to get to know the golfers and the sponsors and to say thank you. You know, some of the guys have been coming back for several years, so too for the golfers, and so they kind of catch up over time, and it's not like you just come and golf and then that's it, but they get there early, they're talking to the seminarians during the meals. I always try to make sure that some of the seminarians are out helping us, and some go eat with the guests who are with us, and then at the same time as people are coming back or at the end of the day. So I think it's important to show a partnership or kind of the dynamic of the churches coming together for an enjoyable day, but bigger than, or more important, I would say, than the money that's raised is the connection between the people of God and those who believe God is calling them to serve our church as priests.
Mary Louise, touching upon that, go ahead.
Dan, I would like to say that I think people who give to this event, and there are about 300 donors, much more than, like twice the number of golfers, who give some amount, whether $20 all the way up, to the tournament sponsor. We have archangels, $2,500, angels, $1,250. All these people feel committed and want to support our priests, the priesthood, our bishop, Father Don Williams, and his efforts. They really want to make sure that we foster vocations and support these young men in the seminary. So I think even if you cannot golf, even if you cannot come and be physically present, I think there is ownership. This is our 8th year, and we've had people who do not miss a year. Every year since the first, they've given a gift, and very often it's increased. And the nice thing is, they often give it in memory or honor of someone. And I think this is this is an emotional part of this for a lot of people, because this is a wonderful cause, the priesthood, our young seminarians, and people really want to remember their loved ones as well. So it's their tradition. There's many people who do it every year. It's a tradition. Yes, of course, I will give in memory of. And sometimes they remember different people, but they always will do it. And then again, many times the priests even will remember their brother priests or their parents with a memorial gift. So to me, there's real ownership, not just to people who come to the event, but to people who follow this and who want to be a part of it and who want to know that they're doing something to contribute to the priesthood in our diocese.
Father, a lot of people probably don't understand why we're even going to this trouble, but why is the money that we do raise through this golf classic so crucial in helping our young men who are in formation for the priesthood?
Sure. Well, anyone with a child or a grandchild in college or graduate school today knows the rising costs. And for us to prepare men to serve the church as priests, there are many costs that continue to rise on a regular basis, and so we want to provide for that. But also, the men who go into the seminary, they're not able to have a job like during the course of the year, and so they don't have that added income. Obviously, their parents and family members can help them, but so they don't have that possibility because they are in the seminary. And then in the summer, they are in a parish assignment, or we send them to a special program at Creighton University in Nebraska. So it's really essential that we are having monies available to help. Also, many young people today who are approaching the church come with educational debt. And so what we've been trying to do is to sit with each man and see where are they, what is it that they can own, what is it that their families can help, but then what is it that we can do to lift some of that burden and free them up, to follow their path. I believe, just picking up on what Mary Louise was just saying, that Ryan Glenn was just really a tremendous spokesperson on behalf of the seminarians when he was asked to speak, words of gratitude. And Ryan was just ordained a deacon, and with God's grace will be ordained a priest next June. And he was able to golf, but when he spoke after dinner, he told a story about being assigned with Father Paul Mullen at St. Vincent's Parish in Dingman's Ferry, and how much he enjoyed being there with the people and the ministries, etc. But he talked about how many times Father Paul would pay for meals or pay for things. And he said, please let me pay. And Paul said, no, Ryan, like while you're in the seminary, this is your chance to receive. You're giving us a gift by entering the seminary, pursuing this possibility. So you receive from us, and then someday you'll have an opportunity to pay it forward. So Ryan took that story and he said, for us, we want to say thank you for supporting us. We're in the seminary and we are receiving very generously from all of you, the people of God, to help us with our education and with our spiritual needs and pastoral preparation. And so while we are receiving, we guarantee our prayers, our gratitude, and our commitment to one day pay it forward in your name. And so I think that kind of summarizes the essence of what this is about. It's a golf tournament that's mission-driven. It's bigger than golf. It's about inviting the people of God from the Diocese of Scranton to stand with us as we try to prepare for the future of our local church, to provide servant leaders, as Bishop Ambera will often say, who will accompany people in the journey of faith.
Mary Louise, go ahead.
I want to add to the wonderful support that we've gotten for this tournament from throughout the diocese, but also internally, like in the chancery, the communications office, of course, the education office, the finance office. We have representatives on the committee from all of these departments. We also have volunteers on the committee who don't work for the diocese. But they are the ones who go out and ask their friends, ask their business associates, to support us. So we couldn't do that because, the most important thing is the personal approach. So if a friend asks a friend, if they say, vocations are so important to me, the priesthood is so important, would you please give a gift? It happens. So I really want to stress that. You know, it's really not us sitting in an office sending out letters. It's really everyone on the streets, in the communities, asking for support. So I do want to thank, you know, on behalf of all of us, that everyone who has volunteered to solicit gifts.
Father, in addition to the seminarians who make themselves available the day of the Golf Classic, we also see a number of our parish priests that are there golfing as well. We see a lot of representation from the parishes, but we also see our bishop, Bishop Bambera. Why is that such a key part of this particular day?
Well, the bishop basically is responsible for the diocese. He is the vocation director, you know, for all people. And so for him to be there that day to golf, but to say thank you, to certainly to engage with all the people, he's wonderful. You know, he really comes and he stands with us in this effort, but he really he's the honorary chairperson, but bigger than that, he's our bishop, he's our shepherd. And I think it's wonderful for the people of God to see him in this role. He's very relaxed, he's there to enjoy golf, but he's also there to say thank you and to connect with people. So he stands there, and if people want to get a picture with him, they can. He works the crowd at meals, and he really is very wonderful. And what we're also noticing is there's people that come and they golf and they stay for the meals, but there's also people who make contributions who just come in for dinner. So they come in for, you know, the social and then stay for the dinner, and, you know, they don't golf perhaps, but they're there to support, and they're anxious to catch up with some of the seminarians and also to see the bishop and to see some of the priests. So it's just great. I think what Mary Louise talked about, some of these offices, and then also the Catholic Youth Center and Mark
Yes.
Soprano and you know, our risk management office, Tom and Dominic. So it's really kind of cool to see the diocesan offices rallying together, parishes, some of the businesses that support our work and who we rely upon their services coming together.
Starting this September, the Diocesan Office for Parish Life will be hosting a series of convocations focusing on the 4 pillars of word, worship, service, and community. Joining me now to discuss these gatherings in greater detail are the Parish Life directors who will be coordinating these convocations. I'd like to start off by welcoming Richard DeBona, who serves us as Director for Service and Social Concerns. Next, I'd like to introduce Mary Ann Malone, Director for Word and Lifelong Faith Formation. Next, we have Bernadette Rudolph, who serves us as Director for Family and Community Development. And finally, David Beloga, who is Director of Worship within the Office for Parish Life. I want to welcome all of you here today. Richard, I'd like to start off with you. In the case of these convocations, with the exception of Dave's, all of them will be held here at the Diocesan Pastoral Center. And the first one is coming up on Saturday, September 23rd, the service convocation. Tell me a little bit about that and our keynote speaker.
Certainly. A full and vibrant parish social ministry includes the works of charity, justice, and peacemaking. And this particular convocation, service convocation, is going to focus on that third aspect, peacemaking, with a wonderful guest speaker, Marie Dennis. We are truly blessed and honored to have Marie as our keynote speaker. She's been very involved in the Catholic Nonviolence Initiative, which has been developed over the decade in an attempt to get our global church to focus on gospel nonviolence. And Marie has been able to work with the Vatican, in particular Cardinal Turkson of the International Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace, with Pope Francis's blessing, to put forth this Catholic Nonviolence Initiative and to see where it will develop. She's coming to bring the latest news, which includes Pope Francis's 2017 World Day of Peace message, which focused on nonviolence. It was entitled "Nonviolence, a Style of Politics for Peace." It was a tremendous step in putting forth this gospel nonviolence to make it central to a World Day of Peace message. And this 2017 was the 50th anniversary of these World Day of Peace messages, started with Pope Paul VI back in '68. And you might remember a couple of quotes from him: war, never again, war. And later on, if you want peace, work for justice. And Pope Francis nudges this phenomenon, nudges this message, this gospel message along to include the word nonviolence is just a tremendous step. So we are truly blessed and gifted with Marie's presence.
And then later on, as we move into October, on Saturday, October 14th, again here at the Diocesan Pastoral Center, you'll be hosting our Word Convocation, or also known as the Convocation for Catechists. Marianne, again, tell me a little bit about the specifics of that day and your guest speaker.
Well, our guest speaker, our keynote speaker will be Joan Weber, and her topic will be whole family catechesis, which is a topic that we have been exploring in the diocese over the last few years. Some parishes have truly embraced this concept of learning not just for, looking at religious education, not just for children, but for their entire families. And so Joan will address that. She will also, in the morning, and then in the afternoon, she will be one of our workshop presenters, and she'll be able to explore that even further with the people who choose to be in that workshop. We'll also have a variety of workshops in the afternoon. We're going to run each workshop twice, so people have a chance to get to one. If they can't get to it in the first hour, they can get to it in the second hour. And some of our topics are going to be, we have Margot Davidson, who is going to speak about catechesis of the Good Shepherd. I'm going to do a workshop with Vicki Mulligan from Susquehanna on learning through movement. And Richard is going to do a workshop on peacemaking, charity, and justice. And we have a variety of other topics and workshops that people can choose from.
And will this day also include a liturgy?
Yes, we will begin with Mass. Bishop Bambera will celebrate the Mass, and it will be here at the Cathedral, 9 o'clock. It will start at 9 o'clock.
Now, as we move forward in October 21st, again here at the Diocesan Pastoral Center, Bernadette, tell me a little bit about your particular event, which will be focusing on bereavement ministry.
That's right, Dan. One of the basic things that everybody needs at some time from their parish is support when they're grieving. And there are lots of wonderful people throughout our diocese who, without a whole heck of a lot of training, are doing this. And they're always, because they're such good and compassionate people, they're really always looking for support and more knowledge so that they can walk with folks. So I surveyed those who are out there that I know of and invited them to tell me what they would most like to learn about, and that shaped this day. So we'll have a workshop, first of all, on grieving, how to walk with those who are grieving the loss of a child, and Brandis Ricciardi is coming from the University of Scranton to talk with us about that. And we'll also have some of the members of our local chapter of Compassionate Friends, which is a parent support group for those who've lost a child. And so they'll talk for a while, and then we'll have a chance to, as a group, process what we've heard. And then our next speaker will be Kathy Wallace from the Northeast Suicide Prevention. She's actually going to talk about walking with somebody who's grieving the loss of a family member or friend through suicide. And then our last topic will be dealing with compassion fatigue, because of course when you're so often coming into really wholeheartedly the grief of another, it can tire you out and wear you down. And so Tree Stardy, who's the chaplain and bereavement counselor at Allied Services, is going to come and do that. We'll have time to talk as a group in between each. We'll pray at the beginning and pray at the end, bringing all of our ministry to God. So I think it's going to be a wonderful day for those who are involved in grief support ministry.
Now, with the exception of David, all of these events are going to be held here at the Pastoral Center. David, in your particular case with the worship convocation, it will be held at Marywood University on Saturday, October 28th. What exactly will that day entail?
Well, Dan, as you mentioned, it will take place at the Marywood University, specifically the Swartz Center for Spiritual Life, which is a wonderful setting for a day like this, including a very beautiful and intimate chapel, as well as other rooms for the various sessions that we have going on. But the day is specifically geared for liturgical ministers, a variety of ministry, anybody who is involved with participation in helping prepare and carry out the church's liturgy. And we are privileged to have as our keynote presenter Dr. Elaine Rendler, who is a well-known liturgist, columnist, author of several books, including In the Midst of the Assembly and This is the Day. And she is currently the editor of a liturgical musical resource called Today's Liturgy, which many parish musicians are familiar with and probably use that resource. And she provides background on the scripture readings for that particular Sunday, as well as a variety of insights and reflections on different areas of parish liturgical ministries. So while she has been primarily involved with music ministry, she has, over the course of her years of parish liturgical ministry, addressed various ministries and has a great sense of style and understanding, and presents the theology and spirituality of that ministry. So we think it'd be a wonderful opportunity for all the liturgical ministers of our diocese to come together for this day to listen to the insights and the reflections that she has to offer. And we'll have breakout sessions as well for those individual ministries. And we will also have Bishop Mbera celebrating Mass with us first thing in the morning for that entire day. And there'll also be some resources available from various liturgical ministry vendors. So we encourage all the liturgical ministers throughout the diocese to join us for that day. Definitely a privilege and wonderful opportunity to have Dr. Elaine Rendler here with us that day.
As I understand it, a lot of the details for all four of these convocations are still in the works. If people are curious about registration and more specifics, will there be information coming out in the next few weeks?
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Certainly it'll be in our OPL news notes that come out every month. It'll be available on the web page. There'll be a registration form and information about any fees that are included in the day. We are going to try to keep them the cost as reasonable as possible, so as many people can come. You can also look for more information in the Catholic Light.
Marianne, I look at this series of convocations as just another example of how the Office for Parish Life is there as a resource for our parishes. And in all four of your respective convocations, in all of these ministries, a lot of times these people are kind of out there on their own, and it can be difficult. They're struggling with trying to figure out, well, how should I do this and that? Why do you think there is such a value in this type of gathering as far as providing our parish ministers with the resources they need?
I think it's a wonderful day for them to come together, because you're right, they do get isolated sometimes in their own parishes, and they're not aware of what is being done in other parishes or what their peers in other parishes are doing. And so this is a wonderful day to get together. There's quite a nice network of I know of the DREs, and I'm sure of music ministers and ministers in all of the area, in all of the four areas, and they like to get together and compare notes and have time to have a little lunch together and discuss the topics that they've heard. So I think it's just a wonderful networking day for the ministers that are in our parishes.
If I can add to that, I also think it's just a great opportunity for more formation.
Yes.
People are in volunteer spots, and they're so courageous about doing that, but this will really help them in their ministry to have more knowledge. These are all really current and pertinent topics in each area, and they're really going to help folks to do a better job, and we know that's what they want to do, so we're here to resource them as much as possible.
And Richard, in all four of these cases, it's also an opportunity to network, dialogue, and share ideas, not only with local agencies, but also some of these key people that are coming in from other parts of the country. Now, in your particular case, on the service convocation, we will have representatives from other organizations, including Catholic Social Services and I think Catholic Relief Services?
Yes, Catholic Relief Services will be sending a representative to talk about their initiatives around the world in support of our global education. They'll also be focusing on fair trade, or what they're calling now ethical trade, in which the folks who pick our coffee beans and cacao for chocolate are paid a living wage, and the proceeds go back into the community. So they'll be selling what's called divine chocolate, as well as fair trade coffee. Catholic Social Services, our diocesan organization, will be here to talk about their work with refugee families here locally. We'll have a representative from the Ignatian Volunteer Corps, which is trying to get parishioners who are 50 and older involved in volunteer work in a very substantial way, where they'll gather monthly for a retreat, monthly retreat, as well as having to serve, I think it's 8 to 16 hours a week, so it's a substantial volunteer program with tremendous support from the Ignatian Volunteer Group. We'll also have folks from Maryland, who are originally from Bethlehem, Palestine, who are going to be selling olive wood gifts from Bethlehem, Palestine for sale to raise awareness about the plight of Palestinian Christians suffering under occupation. And we're also hoping to have folks from environmental ministry organizations and our parishioners who are doing prison ministry to share their ideas in order to get other parishes, parishioners involved in those ministries.
David, one last question. When you have an opportunity like yours, for example, with the worship convocation, and you have a group of people who are basically sharing the same ministry, same concerns and challenges, why do you think there's such power in a gathering like that, where people can come together that are working the same type of ministry and really share and dialogue with each other?
Well, Dan, sometimes I think the tendency, especially with liturgical ministry, is to see each one of those areas, whether it be extraordinary minister of communion or lector, cantor, altar server, minister of hospitality, as being its own ministry, independent of each other. But if we really embrace the liturgy and look at the liturgy, you know, it involves the gifts of many people, and to do liturgy well requires calling upon the gifts of everyone. So I think there is a sense, a common bond, even though we have different gifts. We realize how through the sacred liturgy that we all contribute to the praise and glory of God. So I think a day like this is an opportunity for those individuals participating in those various ministries to come together to reflect on how they're sharing their gifts in participating in the church's liturgy, and just see how they're part of the bigger picture of giving thanks and praise to God in their own unique way through their gifts.
On November 16th, over 25,000 high school students and their adult chaperones will be gathering in Indianapolis to take part in the National Catholic Youth Conference. Among them will be a delegation from here in the Diocese of Scranton, who will be participating in this 3-day event of prayer, music, speakers, workshops, and fellowship. Joining me now to discuss the conference in greater detail, it's a pleasure to welcome Marianne Malone, who serves us as the Diocesan Director for Word and Lifelong Faith Formation. Marianne, thank you for taking the time today. Marianne, we're just coming off of recently the event at Misericordia University, the Light the Fire Youth Rally. And on a diocesan level, that's always an exciting event. But when you look at the National Catholic Youth Conference, is it basically taking that whole premise of light the fire, but on a much larger scale?
I would agree with that. It is definitely on a much larger scale, but has some similar elements. And those are prayer, adoration, great speakers, time together with other young Catholics of our young church, and but it's a 3-day event, and it's huge. 25,000, as you say, will take place in it. Gather in the Lucas Oil Stadium, and it's a wonderful experience to behold. It really is.
Speaking of that, you had the opportunity for the first time to go a couple of years ago. This is actually your second conference. Tell me a little bit about that experience when you're in that stadium and you have over 20,000 young Catholics screaming and enjoying this experience.
Well, when we first walked in, there was actually dance music. I remember the song Happy was being played when we walked in. But then they switch over to a Catholic Christian mode of music, but very upbeat, and everyone sings along and joins in, and there's singing and there's dancing, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And it's a wonderful experience for the adults of any age and for the young people.
I was always curious about how the local youth ministers here in our diocese determine who they're going to invite as speakers for Light the Fire. And you were telling me earlier today that a lot of times when they're going to the National Catholic Youth Conference, that's where they get their ideas. The caliber of speakers, tell me a little bit about that.
They are definitely nationally known speakers. This year they are expecting one speaker that people in our diocese might be familiar with is Chris Stefanik. Because he designed the Chosen program, and a number of parishes are using the Chosen program through Ascension Press for their confirmation program. So Chris Stefanik should be a face that is known to a number of young people in our diocese coming through that confirmation program. And they also have, I'm interested to see a performer, a singer named Toby Mac, and he's supposed to be a Grammy Award singer in the Grammy Award-winning performer in the Christian music arena.
Now, in addition to the music and opportunities for prayer, they have general sessions plus workshops. Tell me a little bit about that.
Right. Every morning, let me think, starting Thursday at noon or so, it all opens up. And the first session is Thursday in the evening. And then there's an evening session Friday morning, Friday evening, Saturday morning, Saturday evening. And that's all in Lucas Oil Stadium, really big. And again, a number of speakers will come out, a number of keynote speakers will come out, interspersed with a lot of high energy music. Adoration is in there, I believe, on Friday night, a very moving Eucharistic adoration experience where that place gets so quiet you could hear a pin drop, you wouldn't believe it. And the lines for reconciliation are especially long, and it's just a very moving experience to see so many people taking part in that. But they're general sessions, morning, evening, and then during the day, there are sessions there's an adjoining convention center. So there are many breakout sessions in that convention center. So there's a wide variety of talks, entertainments, activities that everyone can take part in.
And they also have what they refer to as an interactive park. What is that all about?
Well, the interactive park is it's a huge room, a huge open space in the convention center. Part of it is exhibitors. So there are exhibitor tables, all the speakers, all the national companies come out, national Catholic companies come out and display their books and their CDs and everything. But they also have areas where you can have a mission experience, you can have an experience of prayer, you can have, I know they did some service experiences. One was sponsored by CRS, and they had products that the pilgrims, the kids and their chaperones would go through lines and fill bags with rice and spices and things that would make a meal for a small family, and they were packaged and sent to a poor country. So you have the opportunity to take part in that.
With that being said, this opportunity for service, is that one of the basic tenets of this conference, to kind of instill in these young Catholics an excitement about going home to their respective parishes and communities and possibly get more involved in service?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And get more involved in service, and get more involved in liturgy, and more involved in even mission experiences. So they'll learn a lot about what goes on in the Catholic Church worldwide through this experience.
And I would assume at the end of this 3-day event that it culminates with a closing liturgy?
Yes, yes. There's a closing liturgy on Saturday night, and again, very big in the Lucas Oil Stadium, very beautiful. Last time in 2015, they asked each person to bring a small pebble, a small rock with them, and they collected them, and they had a lucite base for an altar, and your rocks were collected and in procession taken up. We didn't do it, but I mean, somebody came around and collected it, and those people had a procession and then put them into this lucite, so you could see all these rocks making up the base of the altar. It was beautiful. And then they brought over a slab, you know, some kind of a top that was the altar top, and that was the altar they used for Eucharistic adoration on Friday night, and that was the altar they used for Mass on Saturday night.
We often hear about people who are concerned about teenagers today and the fact that many of them are drifting away from the church and their faith. But when you have the opportunity to attend events as you did with Light the Fire, and now coming up with the National Catholic Youth Conference, are you inspired by the fact that there are so many young Catholics, not only here in the diocese, but around the United States, that are literally excited about their Catholic faith?
Exactly, exactly. And I think it's wonderful for those kids who are excited about their faith to go to NCYC and see so many others, see that they are not alone. They might be alone in their school or their class, or you know, among their neighborhood friends, but to see that they are not alone in that. So just like you see so many enthusiastic young Catholics at Light the Fire, you'll see so many more at NCYC.
And will you see that type of interaction? Will the delegation from the Diocese of Scranton pretty much stay with themselves, or will you see a lot of interaction with other young Catholics from other states?
Right. No, there's a lot of reaching out, and part of the preparation that we do is have ready little giveaways and little things that we can share with others. So you'll see the pilgrims, and we do say it's a pilgrimage. You'll see our pilgrims share, you know, just walking up to somebody, and it's a conversation starter. You know, walking up to somebody you don't know, but they're from the, you know, a diocese in another state, and they'll give them a pen, or one little thing they do is write notes on clothespins, and you can pin a note, you know, God loves you on somebody's shirt or something, and it's just a little conversation starter. And another thing they do is there is a lot of wearing of hats, all kinds of crazy hats, and the hats get exchanged. And so you can go home with some souvenirs of other people's hats, but it's a wonderful way for the kids from Scranton to meet people from all over the United States.
Marianne, I know that at this point we have probably over 100, maybe 110 people signed up between both students and adult chaperones. Is it too late for somebody who's watching this interview today if they're interested in possibly going?
It isn't too late. Last year we had 100. We topped off at 100, and that filled 2 buses. The buses actually take 110. Right now we're at 110. We contracted for 2 buses, so we're right at 110 pilgrims. So anyone who signs up from here on in will be on our waiting list. We're trying to form a waiting list of about 40 more. If we have 40 more, we can get another bus. So if you are interested, now is the time to say something, and you know, we will certainly put you on the list and hope for that 40. And if we have an additional 40, we'll get another bus. We'll have a total of 150 people, and I think that will be ideal.
And last question, for someone who's watching this and is wondering, well, should I go? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Would you say that this really is a life-changing experience for those young Catholics who do attend the National Catholic Youth Conference?
I do. I mean, I feel it was life-changing for me. So I know it's a life-changing experience for other students. I mean, I've heard students talk about that, and some of the other experiences that we offer here in the diocese, Light the Fire, ISLI, Up and Over, all of those things, but NCYC is in there too.
Last month, Bishop Bambera celebrated special liturgies marking the beginning of a new chapter in the lives of two of our parishes. In our next segment, we'd like to share with you highlights from those services, during which Bishop Bambera installed the diocese's newest parish life coordinators, including Deacon Edward Kelly at St. Mary's Parish in Waymart and Deacon William Beam at St. Andrew's Parish in Wilkes-Barre. When there aren't enough priests to serve every parish individually, church law allows a bishop to appoint a person other than a priest to provide the primary leadership in a parish and to attend to the pastoral care of the community, making daily decisions for the parish, and managing parish operations and finances. A deacon, vowed religious, or layperson can be appointed as a parish life coordinator, while a priest is also appointed to serve as the sacramental minister to celebrate Sunday Masses, weddings, funerals, and the sacraments, and to work with the parish life coordinator. In addition, a priest moderator is appointed to supervise the pastoral care and also serve as the bishop's direct representative to the parish. At St. Andrew's Parish, Father Joseph Carney serves as sacramental minister, and Father John Palednak, Episcopal Regional Vicar for the Southern Pastoral Region, serves as priest moderator. And at St. Mary's Parish, Father Joseph Sitko serves as sacramental minister, and Father Richard Zacher, Episcopal Regional Vicar for the Eastern Pastoral Region, serves as priest moderator. During both installation services, Bishop Bambera assured these parish communities that Christ is ever present in their midst as they move forward on their journey of faith.
I have no doubt that as you begin a new chapter in your life as a parish, that the future for this community will continue to be bright and filled with much hope and consolation. You've prepared well for this moment, with Deacon Kelly to lead this faith community, with Father Sitko, who will continue to celebrate Mass and the sacraments for you, and with the support of Father Zacher, who wasn't able to be here this morning. You will recognize, just as you always have, the presence of Jesus in your midst, giving you hope and helping you move forward. So finally, as we come together today, may we simply give thanks for the abiding presence of Jesus in our midst, a presence that we hear in the word proclaimed from this pulpit, a presence that we experience in the Eucharist that we'll soon receive from this altar, a presence that is felt in the lives of the people that we will serve this day, and a presence that is clearly, vividly in our midst in the lives of this community of faith that gathers week after week for the simple purpose of being strengthened in the faith to continue proclaiming the good news of Jesus. God bless you all, and thank you. And so I ask you, Deacon Kelly, will you serve the people of St. Mary's Parish by living to the best of your ability the life of faith demanded by the gospel and by fulfilling your role as parish life coordinator?
I will.
Will you serve the needs of this community through the ministries of word, worship, service, community, and administration in accord with your responsibilities as parish life coordinator?
I will.
Will you work with the members of this community, the appointed sacramental minister, your priest moderator, and myself, to promote a spirit of shared responsibility and respect for one another?
I will.
Holy God, we praise thy name. Lord of all, we bow before thee. All on earth thy scepter proclaim. All in heaven above the glory. Give thanks to God.
Last month, thousands gathered here at St. Anne's Basilica in West Scranton to take part in the 93rd annual Solemn Novena to St. Anne. In our closing segment, we'd like to share with you highlights from this year's novena, as faithful once again came together in prayer, asking for God's blessings through the intercession of St. Anne.
Sweet child of election, deemed worthy to bear the Virgin of virgins, Christ's mother most fair. O good Saint Anne, pray for us. O good Saint Anne, pray for us.
We are truly sorry for all of our sins and humbly ask your pardon. Please grant our petitions and a full measure of the indulgences granted by your Vicar the Pope, and draw us ever nearer your divine heart. Amen. There was a beautiful movie out some years ago called The Jerk, starring Steve Martin. And Steve Martin gets angry and he looks up and he says, "I don't need anybody." And so he says, he walks out the room, and as he's walking out, he looks, maybe I need this ashtray. And then he walks further, well, maybe this lamp. And he walks further, maybe this chair, till he gets to the door, and he's got so much stuff that he can't get out of the door. And he needs somebody. We all need somebody. We were not made for isolation. We were made for community. We are all in the same boat, and we're all rowing to the other shore. We are all trying to get to heaven together. And the only way we can get there together is to love God with all of our heart, with all of our being, with all of our soul, and to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And how can we do that? We can only do that when we learn to forgive one another. And can we learn to forgive one another? Because that's what the love of God is all about. It is about the forgiveness and the service of one another. One of the most beautiful paintings in the world is Rembrandt's painting of the prodigal son. And in that painting, you see the father holding the son, not allowing the son to go to his knees, and not even allowing the son to say, "I'm sorry." And that's what we need to be about. We need to get rid of that anger. We need to get rid of that bitterness. We need to get rid of that hatred. We need to let go of those grudges and begin to accept one another as God accepts each and every one of us.
Mother of Mary, O gracious Saint Anne, God's marvelous choice from the whole race of men.
One day, a young Thomas Merton was walking down 6th Avenue in Manhattan with his best friend Bob Lax on their way to Greenwich Village. As they walked, they talked, and Merton couldn't remember what they were talking about, but at one point, Bob Lax decided to do a little digging, and so he suddenly stopped and turned around and asked Merton, "What do you want to be anyway?" Well, Merton thought he couldn't say, "I want to be Thomas Merton, the well-known writer of all those book reviews in the back pages of the Times Book Review." So I put the thing on a spiritual plane where I knew it belonged. "I don't know. I guess I want to be a good Catholic." "What do you mean you want to be a good Catholic?" Well, Merton made up some lame explanation and Lax didn't buy it. So he said, "What you should say is you want to be a saint." "A saint? How do you expect me to become a saint?" "By wanting to." "I can't be a saint," Merton said. "I can't be a saint." Well, Merton didn't believe he could be a saint because he couldn't see himself as God saw him. and therefore he couldn't imagine himself to be a saint. If you think you can't be a saint, it's because you can't see yourself as God sees you, or even imagine that you could be a saint. As I stand here this morning and look at all of you, I see all saints. And believe me, that takes a lot of imagination. By opening yourself to God's ingenious love, you can begin to see with the eyes of God, with the eyes of the one who imagined the world and the one who imagined the kingdom. Imagination is seeing and listening with your heart. That is what Mary did, what Simeon did, John the Baptist, Joseph, the angels, the Magi, all looked and listened with their hearts. So imagine that you are loved. Imagine that you don't have to be perfect. Allow God to enter into your heart and flesh. Let go of fear. Look for the light in the midst of overwhelming darkness. Follow your dreams and listen to your better angels.
Oh, good Satan, pray for us. Oh, good Satan, pray for us.
What a wonderful gathering this is, my brothers and sisters, and how blessed we are and how grateful we are to be a part of it. First of all, it reminds us that we are loved and that God has not given up on any of us and never will. Carry that thought with you for the rest of your lives. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, God hasn't given up on you, even when the rest of the world has. And this gathering also reminds us that God still chooses to accomplish his great work in the ordinary moments of life, in the simplest and least likely of individuals who open their lives and hearts to his presence. Nowhere does God say in the scriptures, I'll be with you if you're perfect enough. He says, I've come for those who are sick. I've come to heal. I've come to touch the brokenhearted. I've come to give you hope. He's here for every one of us who has the courage to say, Lord, I need you in my life. Will you take up residence within my heart? That was true for Anne and Joachim. It's the only thing that got them through in their lives. It was true for Mary, who said yes even when she had no idea of where that yes would take her. And it is true for all of us that when we can't save ourselves, God is there to carry us and to save us and give us hope. This is true for parents who seek to confront the uphill battle of instilling Christian values into the lives of their children. It's true for the teenager who's struggling to make sense of life. It's true for the friend who just can't seem to forgive and let go of a past hurt. It's true for a gay student trying to find his place in the world. It's true for immigrant families trying to find a home for their sons and daughters. It's true for the elderly soul homebound by age and frailty. It's true for the alcoholic who thinks that he can never change, or worse yet, be forgiven for the hurt that he's caused those he loves. And my brothers and sisters, it is true for me and for you. God works wonders in all of our lives when we are humble enough to open our hearts and let God in. God has not given up on any of us and never will. You can take that one to the bank. Live with that in your heart every day. And my brothers and sisters, God will continue to use us, as unlikely as we may see ourselves to be. He will soften our hardened hearts, and he will make his presence and his love known in our lives if we but give him a tiny bit of space to enter and find a place to dwell. My brothers and sisters, this is not extreme theology. It's the message of the gospel, and it's the message for which Jesus gave his life. It is why we are here today at this sacred shrine, and it's what gives us hope on our journey.
My brothers and sisters, through the intercession of Saint Anne, may Almighty God bless you with continual health of mind and body, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
That's all the time we have for now. On behalf of the staff at Catholic Television, I'd like to thank you for joining us today and invite you to tune us in again next month for our next edition of Our Faith, Our Diocese.